G'day people and friends. So today I have a rather interesting story to impart, and it was in relation to meeting a fellow brave. So how it happened is that I was out and about and I was just walking around the corner, just down below here, coming back to my apartment, and there was a guy standing on the corner. And he was 5'8", about 70 kilos, maybe 74 kilos. He was completely bald, shaved head, small goatee, and appeared to be late 40s. He was evidently European, and he had a green t-shirt on with Legend and some green camouflage type shorts, trainers, and a green rucksack. And he looked at me straight in the eye when I came around the corner, and I looked at him and he was looking at me, and I thought, that's a curious look. I mean, lots of people, they look at me and I wonder why they're looking at me and they stare at me. Maybe it's the mad beard, I don't know, but I've always had people that have been staring at me, and I've often pondered what they've been ruminating. And so I looked away and I thought, you know, people stare at me. And so then I heard, "Awake and brave." And I looked over at him and he says, "Aaron, awake and brave. I watch your videos." I started laughing. I went, no way. So I walked over to him, shook his hand, greeted him, and he said, "We have a lot to talk about." Straight away. And so I had the impression that he came purposely to meet me. And so we engaged incessantly for the next 3 hours, just standing on that corner, about all this weird stuff. Now it turns out that he came down to Portugal because he's looking for some sort of small property and land whereby he can be self-sufficient, grow his own vegetables, rear his own chickens. He's a vegetarian, and so he's only interested in vegetables and not really in fruit, because he's of the consideration that sugar is one of the poisons, which lots of the evidence is leading to it is. And so that's what he wants, and he's been looking around the Algarve for the past couple of months. And he saw me about a month ago, and he said that he followed me up from the beach one day, not following, stalking, but he was down on the beach and he saw me. He thought, Aaron from the Awake and Brave. And he walked up the steps behind me, and I said, "Why didn't you say hello then?" And he said, "I just wanted to watch you." And I thought about that, and I'm still thinking about it, because it's a curious thing, because all of my viewers, they know a reasonable amount about me, and of course increasingly they know more about me the more videos that they watch. And so when they come and speak with me, then they have a whole array of information about me. And so, you know, it's kind of like they've known me for a long time because I speak so intimately. But I don't know the viewer from Adam unless they come forward and we start engaging. And so when people see me like that, it's kind of curious, because you're looking and I get to thinking, hang on, he was standing there purposely waiting for me. He's seen me a month before, and has he been, does he know where I live? He's evidently been watching my videos, and so he knew I was down here, and he's been probably watching my videos for about 6 months. And so you wonder, you know, what's the mindset of a person? Why do they want to make an effort purposely to come to meet you? And so there's some strange people out there, but having vetted him for about 3 hours, I considered that he was a decent sort, and he was just down here, and it just so happens that I was down here. And so we arranged to meet the following day. And we did, and we walked on the beach, and we just engaged with each other for 4 hours and 15 minutes, until in the end I was hungry, I was thirsty, my back was aching, I needed a rest, and so I said, well, let's call it a day now, and we'll meet again in a couple of days. And so the story that he was telling me, that he's been on this path for about 10 years, and he had a calling to go to Peru to do ayahuasca. And he went there initially, and he had 6 ceremonies, and he experienced some great things. The nature of the universe from the offset, i.e. looking down at the whole universe, apparently looking at the whole universe, understanding the whole universe, and feeling very, very peculiar about this, evidently. And so he conveyed this to his shaman, and there was lots of other peculiar things that happened, and he's going to tell me a story which was very, very bizarre. And so the shaman said to him that he needs to go away and come back again and train as a shaman. And so he did that, and he went back and he spent a year in Peru, and he did 150 more ceremonies, and he had such bizarre experiences that it really messed with his mind. And he says that on one of the early occasions he received the light, and the light, it was just too much, because it's all the information in the universe. And so how do you deal with that? How do you come back to this reality, people, and deal with that? This reality, this illusion, this hologram, you just see it for what it is. And so during the course of his research over this 10 years, very, 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 very deep, going into all the esoteric, much deeper than the superficial stuff that you get on YouTube. And he's concluding that this earth is run by a negative force, and many people say this. Many people say it. There's a war going on between the good and the bad, and of course this is depicted in all our mythology. Just look at all the mythology. There's always, you know, the good thing, and then there's always the bad thing. There's always the essence that is wanting to do the right thing by the human being, i.e. Prometheus, the Greek god giving the light to man, and ended up then being killed by Zeus. You know, so you've got these gods vying for supremacy, and there's a certain sector which wants to suppress the true nature of the human being, and there's a certain sector that wants to bring it out into the open. But it seems at this moment in time that the power that wants to suppress it is winning. And it has been winning for a long, long time. And it seems, when you look back through mythology, that this war has been going on for millennia. And all cultures have spoken about it, all mythologies deal with it. And when you get into the deepest crevices of this spiritualism, then you start to be aware of it, see it, feel it, know it. And so he was quite a troubled person, and what he wanted to do, he's on the path of purification, and this purification obviously entails his diet, his thinking patterns, and all the things that he's fighting against, he says, from the human perspective, i.e. all of the mind viruses that we can be possessed by. Let me just say, for instance, because these mind viruses are absolutely real, there is energies that attach to us, and they're living vicariously through us. And for instance, let's just say like vices, let's just say drugs like cocaine, heroin, or amphetamine, sugar, you know, nasty foods, alcohol, spirits. You drink spirit. And then what happens? You become something else. There's something else which comes to the forefront, isn't it? This is why I say that I absolutely, deeply, profoundly realise that there's so many of these spirits which have attachment to us, and they are vying for supremacy, and they come forward at any given time, and there's a fight going on within us. A fight to stave off the craving for fatty foods and meat and sugars and cigarettes and alcohol and sex and all these things which deplete the natural resources of the human being and drain the energy and bring us down and stop us ascending to this heightened spiritual level. And so when you look at it like that, you absolutely know it to be true. And so he was fighting with certain facets of his personality, but not only fighting with the ego, fighting with the viruses within his body, because we are 65% apparently microorganisms, and these microorganisms are like an entity in themselves. There's one sector that craves fat and meat, and then another for sugar, and then another for nicotine and alcohol. And there's some sort of mind viruses which coerce people into an early death. They bring about a certain cognition within the mind which forces them, suppresses them into they don't give a fuck about this temple, and so they abuse it, they don't exercise it, and they take in all these impurities. And so this spiritual path is a very, very difficult one to launch yourself upon, particularly if you want to ascend to the dizziest heights of purification. And so he only drinks his own distilled water. He's got a little business he comes from Norway, by the way. It turns out he's 45. He's got his own business whereby he sells distilled water, and he says that there's two varieties of minerals. There's a good variety and there's a bad variety. There's a live variety and there's a dead variety, and it's the dead variety that we don't want. So this is why he only eats greens. And the odd egg now and again, but even he fights against just eating the egg. He just wants to eat the greens, because the living energy within greens derives from the photons of the sun, and then you have this photosynthesis within greens, whereby the plant synthesizes, it creates energy from the sun. It actually creates carbohydrate, and it does this via creating chlorophyll. And so it's the energy that we want, it's the light what we want, because we are light beings, yeah? And scientists can see now that within our DNA there is a whole array of photons attached to it. And when you remove the DNA, then the double helix of photons still remain behind, bonded, like an apparition or an image of the DNA. And so it's very, very complex, it's very deep, and it's really, really interesting. And so he's on this path of purification, and I said to him, I can never grasp when people speak about having 150 ayahuasca experiences, because each one lasts like 6 or 8 hours, and you know, you need a lot of time to assimilate one of these. And I said, look, you know, psilocybin, DMT, basically this is the substance that it derives out of ayahuasca, and so it's a similar sort of experience. And when I have done reasonably high doses in the past, I need time. I need like 6 months before I'm going to go there again, because you just don't feel ready for it. And if I had to do it, say like 3 times a week for a whole year, man, what sort of state would your mind be in if you keep going into this other world where you are just experiencing the absurd, really? And so he came back from that, and he said that there was some sort of attachment to him. And this is what Scott from Ayahuasca Magic has discovered. He considered that he had an attachment, and so then he was seeing demons in apparitions standing before his very eyes in pure daylight, and all this sort of thing. Closes his eyes, he's got demons attacking him, and any number of things like this. And so he's not told me the story yet, but he said that he brought an attachment back to his home country of Norway, and people started to attack him then, and he was being attacked via his mind. And what's happened now is he can't dream. He says he's blind in his dreams, because it's kind of like everything is very, very dark and heavily pixelated, and he can't make anything out. So when he's getting attacked in his dreams, he can't defend himself because he cannot see what he's dealing with. And so he thought, you know, he's finally done something, but now he's learning to live with it, and he's dealing with it, and he's working on it, he's working through it. Can you imagine, people? There's a lot to be said for doing a heavy amount of these psychedelics, because when you become detached from this reality, it becomes a very, very curious and potentially terrifying place. And so, how does he deal with it? Well, he's detached, of course. There's nobody he can speak to. And I think he was hoping that he was going to have this confluence with me whereby I'm on the same path. And it turns out that nobody's on the same path. And having had long discussions, then we discerned that we're on our separate path. We have some sort of goal in mind, but they're non-relatable. And so I listened to him, and I listened to his conveyance of his troubled mind. And I thought, man, I'm so happy that I don't have that. And I discussed that what I have is a feeling of great well-being and beauty and love for the natural world. I love this world. I don't consider that I want to leave here and I want to ascend because this place is such a terrible place. I don't know. It depends on the mindset that you've got, and I don't know whether you can change the mindset. I'm sure you can to some degree, but it seems to me that, I've been speaking about it a lot recently. So many people just haven't come here to do this. They are not the variety of human being that we are who are on this ascending path. And of course there's many strands of this ascending path, and people can say they've meditated for 30 years and they're vegan and it's all peace and love everywhere they go, and yet they're so far detached from the deeper aspects of this world, all the spirit realm and the controlling mechanisms that's going on this prison planet. There absolutely is forces, and this guy was telling me that they're far bigger than the Illuminati. They're just the puppets, puppets and puppets and puppets and puppets. And so the real essence of creature, being, entity that dominates this planet is a non-corporeal entity, and they use certain facets of people via their personality and via their intelligence and this, that and the other, and their grasp on esoteric knowledge. And so they've had certain knowledge imparted to them through the lineage of time, bloodlines. And so this is what's going on in this world, and the more you look into it, the deeper you look into it, it's so bizarre, it's so incredible that it blows most people's minds. Now there's lots of you, I say lots of you, there's not too many of you out there. We're at about 30 these days, but there's only probably about 10 of you maximum that I consider that have got a decent grasp on this and communicate with me and others. And so it's very curious to meet people. Now it's the second time I've met somebody. I've just been walking around. It's about 2 months ago whereby someone says, "Skunkweed, awake and brave." And I'm just walking in the woods, having done some DMT. And so 2 people in 2 months in this small town. It's curious, isn't it? And so you have to ask. Now the first one, we never spoke. He was just walking by with his partner and his dog. And this guy, there was an urgency and a purpose that he needed to communicate with me. He needed to be listened to. He needed to see if he could extract anything out of me which can help him on his way. And I imparted lots of things that, he'd not looked into, because he'd evidently not looked in to all the esoteric stuff as deeply as I have. He'd spent more time doing the shamanistic thing, ingesting ayahuasca and contemplating this, trying to work it all out from his mind's perspective. And so he didn't want to come on video, and so I'm not naming him. And I'm going to be seeing him again in a couple of days, and he's around for another 2 weeks. And so I'll give him my email, and I'll give him an invite to the channel to see if at some stage he wants to have some sort of involvement. But he talks about the insiders, people that have written such deep, disturbing stuff for the vast majority of people, that when you know this stuff, how can you communicate with anybody else? You can communicate with one in 100,000 probably. I don't know what the figures are, but they're astronomical. And for me to listen to him, I'm like, yeah, I mean, do I want to go there? Do I want to taint that which I have? And so I started to convey to him, because he said that he doesn't pay no mind to this matrix thing. He's over and above that, he's deeper than that, and there's too many illusions going on in this dimension. He reads really, really esoteric stuff, which he comes upon from the deep internet. The stuff that vast majority of people are not privy to in the world. And so I started to say, well, look, this is how I see it. I have come to a position whereby I feel light. The light is in me, you see. I'm not heavy, I'm light, and I see the light, I love the light. If I'm going to worship anything, I'm going to worship the sun, because the sun brings me such joy, warmth and pleasure, and it's bright, and it casts its light upon the whole world. Every given second it's different, through every single day, depending on the height in the sky. And it just amazes me, and I said to him, we're sitting on a rock right at the ocean shore, and the sea these days is absolutely turquoise, and it's a very tranquil affair. Now we get into spring, and I'm seeing the water wash over rocks, and I'm observing the phosphorus light stars and the electric blue shimmering in the water, and I say, look, can you see that? And he's like, what? And I say, here. He says, I went closer and I said, down here. It's electric blue, it's shimmering, changing intermittently between phosphorus white light, and it's gleaming, and it's speaking. He says, I'm just not there with you. I'm in another area. That didn't touch him, didn't mean anything to him. So he couldn't find the beauty of everyday life, seeing the beauty inside himself. Considers that he's got a battle on with his body and a battle with his mind. Goodness me, the whole journey for him is a battle. I don't want to have a battle every single day. We have to realise, people and friends, that we have negative energies which attach to us, and they are parasites, and they are playing a part in our suppression. And so it's a challenge here in this game to take autonomy over them, and it's difficult to stop eating all the things that our body is accustomed to do, because from the very early stages we've been fed it. Why have we been fed fatty stuff, salty stuff, sugary stuff from the very, very beginning by these entities which know that they are poisons for us, and they stop us ascending? Because these energies which the sugar and the salt and the fat create, they create all sorts of diseases that make us exhausted, and they deplete our energy. And so this is why, particularly in America, the supermarket shelves are absolutely riddled with this shit. And so their mentality is, we'll offer it to them, and if they take it, they take it. We're not forcing it upon them, because there's certain laws that these energies, they have to have a compliance with, and it isn't to bring about first-hand trauma, stress, fear, death. It's to provide choices for people, and if they want to take it, then so be it. But because they're so good at delivering us that stuff, they've got all the factories that create it and all the promotional mechanisms and media that promote it, then they relinquish themselves of any blame. And so they don't carry the karma of depleting the human race. That's their intention, to deplete the vast majority of us. And I don't even know whether they want any of us to remain, to be fair. You know, it's such a deep and complex situation. But for sure, there's a lot of stuff like this going on. And so I thought I'd bring this to your attention. And when I was speaking to him about, my perception of this world, and I started to convey to him, well, my experience on psilocybin, my experience on Amanita muscaria, my experience on DMT, and my experience with astral projection, with deep meditation. All these things, they bring me joy. They give me a great heightened feeling of well-being. And when I experience, the psychedelics, I don't get attacked. I'm not. I don't go to the realm of the monsters and the negative energy, and I don't know why this is, other than the fact that if you have a variety of disposition which is pure and it's good and it's loving, most of you will be quite surprised, but there is this love I have for the world and, proper, real human beings. And so I don't love everything across the board. This new age stuff is complete bollocks because they don't know what they're dealing with. Out there's a lot of negative energy, and we're not all the same variety of human being. There's varieties that have come to destroy. There's varieties that have come to just destroy people. The variety of energy, like narcissists and psychopaths and all these sort of variety of energy which latch on to the pure human being initially. If that is so, if we're born pure, then at some stage in our evolution we are tempted, you see, and we're tempted by all this darkness, and lots of us, we're susceptible to it, and we go, okay, and we think it's okay because it's promoted to us, like all the vices that we're offered in society, which are absolutely bad for us, that are very, very heavily promoted, like alcohol and cigarettes and sugar and salt and fat and eating dead bodies. They're all very, very heavily promoted. But what's not promoted, people? Psilocybin isn't promoted, DMT isn't promoted, Ayahuasca isn't promoted. Anything that's going to enable you to ascend is absolutely suppressed. And so on the basis of that, you have to know that there's an evil force prevailing over the world. And the evil force, it comes in many, many guises, as I've said. And of course, the evil force is our governments via the manipulation, what they want to impose upon us, via the Wi-Fi technology, the G-grid, and the phones which listen to us, and they're going to be watching us soon enough, and all this sort of thing. They want to keep an absolute 100% consistent monetarization on us. And I can only think that there's going to come a day when they're going to be performing the Night of the Long Knives, which the Nazis carried out just before he came to power, because there was lots of energy which was working against him. And so when he got into such a position of power, then he sent his stormtroopers out to arrest these people, thousands of them, in one night, the Night of the Long Knives, and they were never seen again. And so I can't help thinking that they're gathering all this information up to do that. They want to know exactly who is a potential threat to waking up the masses. And I'm pretty sure we're seeing signs of it now, aren't we? With closing down of sites like mine and many others, and the suppression of the freedom of speech and the imposition of fear, absolute fear, that we can't move through being afraid that we're going to have rules imposed upon us and imprisonment, and and so we can't say anything to the next person, and we can't speak freely. And it's like in the days of the Prohibition in America in 1929, when they banned the alcohol. Then they had these places called speakeasies. They could go in there, they could drink the alcohol, and they knew that there was within a variety of community whereby they're all, you know, into the same thing, and they could convey themselves freely to the greater part. But I'm pretty sure that there were stool pigeons amongst these watering holes, and they were listening and they were informing. And if you go back to George Orwell, 1984, it's the same thing. We're being told this time and time and time again, and the Matrix, everything. There's no way around it, people. This is what's going on. And so you have a choice, really, when you become educated, whether you want to delve in deeper or whether you want to just plateau at one sort of level because you don't want to go any further. You really don't want to know. And so I'm not sure whether I really want to know to that degree. I mean, I certainly don't want to do ongoing ayahuasca experiences to have my head fucked with, because there's too many people talk about attachments, and it can't be a good thing, can it? It really can't. You get more enlightened knowledge, but do you really want to know it? That's the thing. Do you really want to step outside of your ignorance of whatever level it's at? Because there's always another level to go up. And so I don't know, because if you're only in receipt of a certain portion of this information, then it can be very debilitating and terrifying to you. If you get to such a position whereby you know pretty well everything, then okay, like the energies that rule the planet, then they know everything, and so to know all this information then isn't scary, because they've got mastery of it. It's the fear thing, you see. It's the unknown aspect of it. If you don't know what really is going on, then it's the natural instinct for the human being to be fear-based in relation to it, because it goes into self-protection mechanism. So this is the level that I'm speaking at these days, and this is the level that increasingly we are speaking at as a community. And I'm pretty sure that we are going to be losing lots of people intellectually, because the stuff that we're talking about, if you haven't learnt about it, then it's too wild for you. I was listening to someone called Cremo, Michael Cremo, and he was speaking on speaking aloud consciousness. I can't remember what the it's about consciousness, talking aloud or something like this, with Jeffrey Mishlove. And I have watched Jeffrey Mishlove for a long time, and I've been watching his videos since he was 20 years younger, and now he's getting quite old, and I was quite surprised, because the subjects that he's broaching now are at this level. And talking to people like Michael Cremo, whereby he's saying that you know, we're not all human, and the history of this planet goes back millions of years. And there's evidence for 20 million years. There's been human fossils found. There's been footprints found. Absolutely, they're so indistinguishable from any other ape-like creature. They're exactly the same as the human being is now. 20 million years ago, there's been mortise and pestles found in absolute solid rock in mines so deep, and all this sort of thing. We don't know anything about what's going on in this dimension, and for lots of people then that can be a very terrifying thing. But the way I try to deal with it and step outside of it is that, well, look, because I don't know what I am really, we don't know what we are in the bigger scale of things, and so we're so powerless. And so whatever will be at the end of the day. Really, we're all going to die, and so whatever happens to every single one of us when we die, we're going to find out one day. And so, you know, prepare yourself, you become more enlightened, and rid yourselves of attachments and mind viruses, and purify the body so you can ascend to a higher level. If this is how it works, if this is really what it's about, if it really is a game that we've come into, to see how far we can get up this game of snakes and ladders. And so if you enjoy it, and if it doesn't affect you too adversely, then okay. And that's all I can say. You know, keep it balanced. I keep it balanced. And listening to people like this guy the other day brings about a realization of other levels that you can delve into, which potentially can really disturb the mind. And so he's alone, he doesn't have a partner, and he evidently doesn't have any friends, and he couldn't communicate with any of his family, and he really wanted to communicate his experience on ayahuasca to his father, and he tried to broach the subject on many occasions, walking in the woods and this, that and the other. The father didn't want to know. He would just change the subject every single time, until in the end this guy got so frustrated with it, he absolutely confronted him when the father was driving in the car, so he couldn't escape anywhere else, and he was confronting him directly about the things he had experienced. And he said he had never seen so much fear being projected from one person in all of his life. And I said, what do you mean? Can you try to explain that? He said there was just this terrifying fear from something within him that just did not want to go there. And so he left it alone. And he realized that many people just cannot be touched. And so he's walked away from his father and all his friends, and now he doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere. He's drifting around the world looking for this utopia within his body, within his mind, and within this dimension. And so all these facets he's juggling with, trying to find this ultimate freedom. Just now I'm looking down here, and there's a swimming pool which is on the land of an adjacent apartment block, and the water is shimmering because the wind is gently blowing on it and the light is flickering from it. And it's this light that I'm in touch with, and it's this light that I have an allegiance with, and it's the light that absolutely brings out the life in me. And when I look at all of the natural world, which is living via the light, none of it would be in existence if it wasn't by the light. We wouldn't be in existence if it wasn't the light. After all, we're a great percentage of photons. We are light beings. And so I don't think that's a bad thing, to head towards the light and see the joy that the light brings and the life, and to study that which is created. It's absolutely amazing. This is the realm that I want to be in, and I will take psychedelics from time to time, as long as they enhance that. If I encounter psychedelics whereby it starts to dull my mind from that, then absolutely I will stop. And so far on my journey, all of the psychedelics that I have partook in, they've worked with me. And so I can't help thinking that whatever your disposition is, whatever your frame of mind is, whatever variety of spirit you are, then that energy is really quite strong. And so when negative people approach you, they can't penetrate you to such a depth. When you have negative experience, they can't penetrate you to such a depth. They can't get a hold on you. They can't destroy you. And so with all the energies that are pervasive in society, I've detached myself from them a long time ago. I didn't want to partake in their bullshit, and I don't want their fetters within me. And so I'm going to be launching myself upon some dietary restrictions. I'm going vegetarian, and I've stopped eating bread now for about 3 weeks. I'm going to stop eating cheese, and so slowly I'm going to be testing the ground again. I was a vegetarian for 6 months, and it didn't appear to make any difference, but I want to be more consciously aware of my mind and my body and my energy levels now when I'm trying out different things. And so it makes perfectly logical sense not to eat dead stuff, not to eat bodies which have the fear hormone, cortisol, within them, because evidently when the animal is under stress, and to whatever degree it's under stress, and intuitively it's going to know something's going on, it's going to be afraid, and so therefore it's going to be anxious, it's going to be generating the cortisol. The cortisol, it goes throughout the meat, and this is why the Jews, you see, they're very smart and lots of things, and this is why they created the Kabbalah, which is all this alchemical symbolism and magic and deep esoteric knowledge. That's what they follow, and there's a lot to be said for that. And so therefore they have kosher meat, whereby they will calm the animal to a very calm state, and then they will slit its throat with a very sharp knife, so it causes absolute minimum pain and stress. They will bloodlet, and so whatever cortisol is released into the blood, then it gets pumped straight away out of the body, instead of being pumped around the flesh. And so there you have it, people. Onwards and upwards. Keep monitoring yourself. Monitor the attachments that you've got. I mean, you can say, like, oh, it's just the physiology in the body that makes you crave for sugar and fat and this, that and the other. But life isn't that simple. It really isn't that simple. And so we are spirit. The whole world here is an illusion. It's all an apparition, and it's all a fluctuation of energies. And so when you start to know this, and when you know that there's endless dimensions, and there are energies in the astral, in dreams, in DMT experiences, in Ayahuasca experiences, there's all this stuff going on. And so I wouldn't discount anything. Absolutely nothing. Keep an open mind about everything, and keep vigilant about stuff. And look at your body, feel your body, and get in touch with the deep core of your own consciousness, over and above of the program that is operating this thing here in this dimension. Because this mind, this egoic mind, it's just a program. Absolutely every single bit of it is just a program, which enables us to have this experience here. And so we have to ascend that. And this is the whole thing about the ascension. We have to step outside of the ego. We have to step outside of the body. And this is why I say to you guys these days that I'm observing this body as a detached energy. I love this body, because you have to love the body, because it's your portal around this dimension. And so you have to look after it, but you have to know also that you are not it. And you have to look after this if you want to extend your longevity on this planet, to acquire greater wisdom, to acquire the facility of ascending to another level, whatever these levels are. And so When you look at the Buddhist monks and the gurus, and they have such a tranquil state of mind, and they're detached from all this matrix, and they just have a gown on, and they eat very, very simple foods, and they don't work, or they don't partake in anything, really. The meditation, contemplation, articulation, and they feel absolutely fantastic. They're in touch with this realm, and they have released themselves from the fetters of all the attachments that go on. And so, of course, there's a lot to be said for that. But we, as Westerners, we are born into the heart of this. And it's good in one respect, because we have all this information which we have at the touch of our fingers, whereby people in the jungles and in the bush, then they don't have the information, and so maybe they will never gain this awareness, particularly people in poor countries, India and Africa and the Middle East, whereby their energy is given to providing a meal for their sustenance every single day, and so therefore that is where their consciousness is projected to. Where's the next meal coming from? And so they will never ascend out of their Maya. Whereas we in the Western world, we have more stress and more pressure, but we live in a much more comfortable environment. In one respect, we've got all the home comforts, but the mind, it has so many troubles. It's pulled and pushed in so many directions, isn't it? But we have the facility then and the technology to be able to grasp and ingest all of the information from the whole world, because it is at the tip of our fingers. And so use it. Speak with people from the heart, because if you don't speak with people from the heart, you will never learn anything. Because just to listen to what people have said intellectually, that isn't knowledge. The knowledge is when you partake in the information, when you feel it, when you engage with it, and then you know it to be true. Because the only portal to knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, is that which we can experience firsthand. And of course, lots of knowledge is erroneous. A great deal of knowledge is erroneous. Just look at people individually, like me speaking to this guy the other day. He considered that he's at a heightened level. But I look at him and I think, you've not got it right. You think you've got it right because you are in possession of certain knowledge. But the way I feel, the way I express myself, it seems to me that I am enjoying this human experience far more than you are. And so he wanted to try to acquire great longevity. And he said there's no reason why we should die, and there's entities on this planet that don't die. And I said, well, why would you ever want to go forever fighting with this thing that you partake in the experience within? That doesn't seem rational. I said I'm perfectly content to do the things I do, to engage in all the things I do, because it seems to me that I'm doing fine on it. You know, not suffering from depression, I'm not obese, and, you know, I don't have negative thoughts and all this sort of thing. And so it seems to me then, eating meat and sugars and salts and all this sort of thing, well, you know, these entities, they may have an adverse effect on certain people, but it seems to me that I'm faring up quite well with that. And so you have to question everything, don't you? Because you can listen on YouTube and they'll say, don't eat this and don't eat that, and this will fuck you up and that will fuck you up. And, you know, people like smoke, for instance, you know, people like Freud and Jung, they're smoked incessantly all their lives, and they both lived to be 82 and 83. And so, you know, what can we say about that? It's really difficult, isn't it? We've just got to find the variety of creatures that we are, because within us there are creatures, and within me there is different variety of creatures, i.e. microbes. And in some people the microbes crave sugar so bad that they just keep eating and become obese, and some of their bodies, they don't provide enough insulin, and so therefore they have this disease of diabetes, and on and on and on, with various susceptibility to mental illnesses and physical illnesses, all depending on the energies that we've got mingled within us with the microbes and life forces which we consist of, with the information which we ingest. The information itself is a living entity. Because if you take negative words into you, and if you believe them, they will destroy you. And so what can we say about that? It's not the words. Well, what is it then? It's the words that are responsible for the changing of physiology within your mind and body. So therefore it is the words. And also it's an environment. If you live in a bad environment and you stay in it long enough, then you're going to be affected by this bad environment. And I can speak absolutely first hand about this, because when I was living in Ghana, that was an absolutely abomination. And it speaks for itself. Everybody is in abject poverty. People die from the most simple of diseases, and nobody cares, and everybody's a liar and a thief and a cheat. And the whole African continent, as far as I'm concerned, because all African nations are the same, they are pure poison. And as a white man, when you go into these countries, then you will find out very, very quickly. It's like falling into a viper's nest. You're going to get bitten, and that's just how it is. And so I was lucky to get out of that continent with my life. Very, very lucky. And whilst I was there, I read a lot of history about pioneers. In the early days, they all died. They all got bitten by the proverbial snake. They suffered from malaria, they suffered from some sort of a worm, of parasite, and they died through not having the proper nutrition, and maybe even on some occasions some sort of juju, voodoo, this sort of thing. Being in an environment that you don't understand, you can't comprehend the zeitgeist, the mental energy of a particular nation. Because when you go into an environment which has a different zeitgeist, then it's very difficult to perform within that, because the vibration is very, very different. And I learnt an enormous amount from my 3 years in Ghana, and I kept extensive diaries, and I'm going to be maybe writing a book about that, but at the very least I'll be doing a series of videos about all the experiences that I had. Absolutely horrendous. So there you have it, people. This video is getting quite long. And so now I'm going to be playing my guitar for a few hours. I'm going to be walking on the beach and basking in the glory of what I consider to be at least one of the gods in this dimension. And it's the God that brings about life. And so I don't think it can be bad. And you look all around at the beauty that it delivers every single second of the day. And I was conveying to my friend how, can you not see this? Can you not see that? Look, 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 look. And when we were sitting there, we was in conversation, and I looked past him, and I just saw the tiniest little star gleaming in the sand. Obviously it was something which had reflectory properties, and it was shining back like 1,000 suns, the tiniest little thing. And I looked at it and I said, look. And he looked at it too, and he went, oh. And I said, don't you feel that that was just for us? It may seem to lots of people, it's just reflection, Aaron. No. To me, it's just it's an expression of the light of God. And it's just letting me know all the time. I'm just seeing it again. I'm getting this all the time. I'm gonna turn the camera around for you on this, because there's a reflection over there, and I'm gonna put my glasses on because this is happening to me absolutely all the time, and it is really quite curious. Bear with me, people. Oh, come on. What's going on here? Sorry about this, but there it is. I'm going to go in further. Go, 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 go. Down a little. Oh, come on, don't fuck with me. There. That's as near as I can get. But you see, that bluey white light, and it's absolutely brilliant phosphorus light from where I'm sitting here now. And it's catching my attention like Venus does in the early night sky. It's the only astral body in the sky that you can see at dusk, and it's very, very bright and prominent. And so this is what I'm seeing. And it may, well, of course it's not going to be touching the vast majority of you, because we all get touched in different ways. But that, for me, every time I'm seeing the light, and I'm seeing it all over the place, and as the cars are coming down the road now, they're all going gleaming, sparkle, sparkle, straight into my retina, because I'm at a particular position. And I notice it. Why do I notice it? Why does it feel so profound to me? Why do I feel that it's speaking to me? Because it's an expression of the sun god. Why did the Egyptians, why did many cultures worship the sun? For the same reason. They was in touch with it, and when you're in touch with it and that of nature, you know it absolutely to be life-giving. And so this is what we're sharing in, isn't it? Okay, peeps, so have a great day. And I've noticed that there's not many comments these days, and so evidently it seems that I'm losing you. Because if I wasn't losing you, then you'd have something to say. It doesn't take long, does it? You know, it takes a few seconds just to write something down about an experience that you've had, you know, or will you be touched enough to want to convey a story of something like I am? Or is it that you don't have stories? Is it that you don't have a clue what I'm talking about? And you just look at me for, you know, some sort of bewilderment, interest, some sort of intrigue there, but you don't get what I'm saying. It's difficult. It's difficult for me to continue, but I do keep continuing, don't I? And it doesn't matter how much I labour it, and I don't get anybody else coming forward, I don't see an influx of comments, and so then all of a sudden then there's a certain facet of me that'll just say to myself, just walk away, Aaron. Just walk away and go and do your thing. Do you want me to walk away? Those of you out there that haven't even partook, are you ever going to partake? Or am I, one day, whenever the mood suits me, just going to press the keyboard and delete you? Choices, people. Make yours. And even if you a little bit, oh, I don't know what to say, Aaron. Well, what is it that brings you to the site? What is it that, you know, draws you to viewing my videos? Tell me something. Try to articulate something. Whatever it is. What is it, people?